to help you pick those dreams back up and to pursue them again. Now, I want you to understand, I started DawnDares2Dream because I wanted to relay my message and my heart and my feelings across to whomever would listen. It can be difficult getting your closest family and friends to understand the way that you believe and when you try to express it and share it. So this was like my backdoor way into letting everybody know. Now, I may have lost some viewers as a result of that because they don't agree, and that's fine. I am definitely a proponent of everyone having their own thoughts, their own process, their own mindset that works for them. Your religion works for you, you keep that. No one's telling you to get rid of that. Whatever it is that works for you, continue to use it. I'm just saying that sprinkle some of this other information on it, this personal development information that I'm providing you, and see where your life takes you and how you take off personally. Take it out. But always remember, we are in control of how we see our environment. I don't care what everyone says it looks like or everyone says it is. We are in control of how we choose to perceive the environment. Hey dreamers, welcome back. And thank you to all the new dreamers who stopped by DawnDares2Dream today to see what we're all about. Well, today I'm going to make those pork chops that I talked about last week. Now, I know I said I was going to grill them, but I changed my mind because I don't feel like going outside. So I'm going to go ahead and cook these on the stove top. But I am going to glaze the pork chops with a balsamic honey glaze. So that is what's the most special thing about this meal. Because, you know, I love my sweet with my savory. So this is going to work out really, really well. Also, we are still talking about my bipolar journey. And today we are going to discuss what it's like, or what it was like for me to be released from the psychiatric hospital. Now, remember, I keep telling you that I was happy to learn that I was bipolar. So when I was released, I had all this energy. I just knew that now that I'm empowered and I know what's going on with me, I am going to go out here and I'm going to bang up life. I was very excited. Now, with all my excitement, I really didn't think about how people were going to react to me, because being in the psychiatric hospital, as scary as it was at times, the therapy that I received in there was very empowering. So I didn't feel ashamed. I didn't feel embarrassed about being diagnosed. I felt empowered. So when I was released, I had bought tickets to the symphony, and they were like playing with, I think, Wynton Marsalis or his son. I can't remember his son's name. But I had bought these tickets, and I invited my brother to go with me, and he went. And this was right after I got released. I also had purchased tickets to go see David Copperfield. Now, again, remember, I was manic when I did this. Now, I do love illusionists. I love them. And I've always wanted to go to a David Copperfield show. And so I just happened to be online, and I saw that he was going to be in Baltimore. So I was like, I have to go to this event. And then with the symphony was always something that I wanted to go and sit and see live. I played the violin growing up, and so it gave me an affinity or an appreciation for classical music. So these are things that I've always wanted to do, but I never felt like I had anyone who would do them with me. Now, the symphony tickets, they were cheaper, so I bought 2 of those. When it came to David Copperfield, he was a little bit more expensive, and even though I was manic, I hadn't reached that crazy level, that out of control level of mania yet. So I was like, I'm not buying 2 David Copperfield tickets. Now, I still was manic, and I don't believe I had the money for those tickets either that I bought. And I went to those shows, and I had a blast. I still want to go see David Copperfield again, or an illusionist like him on that level, or even better, because just the things that they do, you're just in awe the entire time while you're sitting there watching them. So let me tell you what goes in this particular meal. So of course we have our pork chops, and I bought some pretty thick ones here, and they do have a little bone in them, and I don't know what cut this is, to be honest with you, but I bought them because they looked really good and they were nice and thick, and my original intent was to grill them, so I felt like the thicker they were, the better for the grill, so they don't dry out. So for the pork chops, we're going to season that with some Himalayan rock salt and some black pepper. And then we're going to also add some oregano and some thyme, both dry. And we're going to cook this with olive oil and butter. Now, the recipe calls for Italian seasoning. I don't technically have, an Italian seasoning bottle in there. So I just figured I'll put the oregano and the thyme together, and that's my Italian seasoning. Now, these ingredients over here are for the balsamic glaze. So we have the honey, we have balsamic vinegar, we have rosemary, fresh thyme, garlic that I'm going to mince, and some Dijon mustard. The recipe calls for honey Dijon mustard. I don't have honey Dijon mustard, so I'm just going to use the Dijon mustard, and I think it's going to turn out fine. It just won't be as sweet, I guess, as they intended. And I can always compensate by that by adding some more honey. And butter is going to go into this as well. I have a plan to make some green beans with in the oven coated with Parmesan cheese. If I have time in this particular video, I will show you guys that whole deal. But if not, you're going to see the pork chops, and I'm hoping I can get to the green beans because I really want to show you, because I typically don't show sides. And I do eat sides. I don't just eat protein. So I'm beginning to incorporate that into my videos so that you can see what it is that I do for sides, and so that you can have some extra ideas on that as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to begin to mince the garlic and to continue to talk about what it was like when I was released from the psychiatric hospital. Now, when I first went in, when the police picked me up, they took me to just a regular hospital, and I was in the psychiatric ward of a regular hospital. And then I was transferred from there to the full-fledged therapeutic psychiatric hospital, where I had some counseling and got some treatment, and they explained to me what I was. And the funny thing is, the doctor was trying to tell me that they had spoken to my family, and I was bipolar, and he was telling me these things, and that I need to take medication and all these things. And I'm like, well, how do you even know my life history if you never talked to me? Because before he talked to me, he talked to my family, I guess. They must have talked over the phone. And so I was a little offended that you came to a conclusion about what I had when we hadn't even talked. And I'm not saying that there wasn't something wrong. Coming out of the hospital, I knew that there would be challenges, but I thought I would be more welcomed than I ended up being welcomed. So my real advice to you is, if you're in this situation and you are the support for a newly diagnosed individual, make sure to be there for them and do your best to treat them as normal as you would have before the diagnosis. However you were with them, still be that way. They still need that love and attention, that tenderness, or whatever that relationship was. They still need it, because I know I needed all of my relationships. I thought it was very interesting that I had an ex-boyfriend that we dated for about 3 years, but we have stayed in contact. And to be honest, we're still in contact to this day. But what's funny about our relationship is, when I found out that I was bipolar, of course I told him, and he goes, I always knew there was something wrong with you. No, that is not a nice thing to say about a person. Because I take that, well, if you feel like there was something wrong with me, or I needed some help or some assistance, why didn't you just say it? But then he said, well, you know how you were. If I hadn't said something, you would have listened. I guess he has a point. I am pretty independent and do what I want to do. You know, I am my own person kind of gal. So I kind of get where he's coming from, but I'm saying this to you to say, if you think something isn't right, figure out a way to share that information with the person. Don't just let them go through life and then get committed, and that's how they find out. Because being committed was a very therapeutic time, but it was very scary in the beginning. Because when I went into the hospital, I think it was the weekend, so there wasn't a real doctor or anybody for me to see until the weekday had started. And I was just in the hospital all this other time trying to figure out how in the world do I get out of a place like this. So it would have been a lot nicer had I went in during the week and they were able to diagnose me right away and then release me, versus I think I stayed there for 5 days. Now, that's my recollection. I don't know if it was longer. I feel like it was like 5 days. It was a weekend and then a few extra days. Now, how true that is, I really don't recall, because all of my memories I don't really have from that time. So I have my pork chops. I am going to generously season them with the Italian seasoning and the salt and the pepper. I have the olive oil in the pan with the 2 tablespoons of butter, and I'm going to sear these pork chops about 3 to 4 minutes per side. And after I do that, I will take the pork chops out of the pan and we will proceed to making the actual glaze. So we're gonna season the pork chops with salt and pepper. Then we have our black pepper. Now we're going to add on our thyme. It said generous, so I'm being generous. And you need to be as generous, if not even more, with your support with a person who's being released from the hospital. We really need our loved ones. We need our support system, because you have to think about it. Our whole life has changed. We now know we have a mental illness. We may have to take medication. We don't even understand what it is or why we're really diagnosed. All we know is something went wrong. Okay. And now I have to do this. Why? So in order to set the right path for yourself, you need a good support system to do that. Now, like I said, my mom stood up for me. My brother and my dad, they were a very good support system, and my best friend of over 30 years. Everyone else, I think, was just in shock and kind of in awe, and they didn't know what to think about the situation. So I'm going to take this and put this in the pan, and I'm going to season the other side of it in the pan. I checked on the recipe for the green beans. It's called the garlic parmesan green beans, and it's very simple. I just need to mince some more garlic, shred the cheese, or grate the cheese, and then add some salt and pepper and stick it in the oven. So this is going to be a rather simple way to prepare the green beans. Now, the only thing is it does take about 25 to 30 minutes to actually cook through. But that's probably why I picked it. I like to find simple ways to prepare a veggie or a protein that we already know and love, but another way to do it that we would have never thought of, but simply. In another video, probably next week, we'll get into how I arrived here to Texas. My plan was not to come and live here at all, but with understanding that I was bipolar and needing support, I needed to go where the support for the time existed. And that support was actually here in Texas with my dad. So we're going to get into what that looked like and how I got here a little bit later. But I just want you to know, and the whole point of the story today is when a person comes out of the hospital and they appear to be okay and they appear to be happy and about the fact that they know what was going on with them now, embrace that, embrace them, and push them along on their journey. Now, I think there is one major reason why coming out of the hospital was so good for me and I had such a positive outlook on life. Remember, I had been introduced to the law of attraction by my Aunt Rose in my early 20s. So by this time, I'm 27, so I've known about the principles for a while. I've been thinking about them, marinating on them, reading the books that she's recommended that I should read. And I'm a very empowered person. Remember, I've read a lot of personal development books prior to this. I've read a lot of African American history type books or education type information. And I'm already an empowered individual. So coming out and now understanding the thing that seemed a little bit off for me and having read all these things that I have read, I just knew that life was about to take off for me because now I understand what has been holding me back. So understanding what's been holding me back really gave me like a new lease on life, a boost. Push forward. It was like I got that card in Monopoly where it says, advance to go, collect $200. It was like that for me. It was like, okay. Now I know, and now I can do this, and I can plan, I can operate, because I knew. But again, I couldn't do this on my own. I couldn't have this success story on my own. So I was in a town, Baltimore City, where the support was a little rocky. My brother was supporting me as much as he could emotionally, but he had his whole family that he had a family. And then, my mother has her own life. And so that left just me. My cousin who was living in my apartment with me, she moved out. And I actually let her younger brother come and stay because he didn't have anywhere to go. And I think he had done something. His parents said he couldn't live with them any longer. And he asked, could he stay with me? And I said, sure. But just know we're going to get evicted soon. I'm not asking for any rent, but you can live here as long as we have a roof over our head and they haven't come and put us out. Like I said, my empowerment became because of the base of information that I had already digested or ingested. So the person you may know that you should be supportive of may not have had all of that personal growth that I had up until that point. So I was okay with what I had discovered. Everybody isn't. So they are going to really need their support system. If you are the person who just got diagnosed with whatever it is, read up on it. Because even if it's a physical illness, you should read up on it. So you understand what you're up against, what you need to do to take care of yourself. Because I tell you, it is not all about the medication. And like I told you earlier, there are things that I don't do in an earlier video. There are things that I don't drink. There's a lot that I do to monitor myself and my behavior. It's all become natural at this point because it's been 18 years. But for you newbies out there, it will get okay. It will get better. They will find the right meds to work for you because generally in the beginning, they just give you what is most commonly used and what should work. But that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. I'm going to talk more about that next week as well. How to deal with your psychiatrist and let them know what's going on with you and so that you can get properly medicated. So we're almost done with this garlic. Almost. There we go. I think I'll go one more pass. That's good enough. So this is gonna be for the green beans. But before I tackle the green beans, I'm going to remove the pork chops from the pan. Then we'll come back and deal with the green beans, put them in the oven, and then we'll work on this sauce. So we're gonna put the green beans on the pan. Of course, you wanna wash them and pat them dry and put them on a baking sheet. Let me get the olive oil. I'm going to rub them down with some olive oil. Add the garlic. And we're gonna add some salt and pepper. And you heat your oven to 425. So we're just making sure the garlic is coating the actual green beans. There we go. Now, I know the recipe doesn't call for as much as I'm putting down here, but I really like my cheese. I really like my cheese. So I want to coat my green beans really well with it. So we're going to lay these out and let these babies bake for 25 to 30 minutes. Now, halfway through the baking time, you want to, or so around 15 minutes, you want to toss them again, just to make sure they cook evenly. Put these in the oven. The green beans are in the oven. They've been in there for about 5 minutes now. I can hear them sizzling in there. We have our pan where we remove the pork chops. This is what, the juices, this is what they look like. Trying to do that so the juice doesn't fall. So now we're gonna add a tablespoon of butter to the pan. Turn this heat down to like a medium heat. Then we're gonna add in the garlic, the scallions, or the green onions. This is the rosemary I chopped. And the fresh thyme as well. And I'm also going to use a little bit of extra honey since it called for honey Dijon mustard and I just have Dijon. I am going to add that extra honey in it. I was talking to my mother and she was like, yeah, add that extra honey. So I'm going to do that to make sure that we both enjoy this. It's almost time to add in the balsamic vinegar. And I did not start with a fresh pan. This is the pan that the pork chops cooked in. You do not want to clean it. You want to use all those juicy bits from the pork chops in your glaze. So I'm going to add in the balsamic vinegar. Then we'll add in the honey. And after it cooks for about a couple minutes, then we will add in the Dijon mustard. And Dijon mustard is going to help the sauce to thicken. Now I'm going to add in the Dijon mustard. It's really tasty. Can't wait to get those pork chops in there so they can drink that sauce. So it's looking pretty good. I have never prepared pork chops this way before. Generally what I do is smoke/grill a pork chop, eat it with some beans, and call it a day. But as I am doing the cooking shows, I'm just finding different and new and inventive, or maybe old ways to do things that I didn't know about. And I just want to share those things with you because I know you know how to grill a pork chop. Now, I did say I was going to grill pork chops last week. I did, but I'm taking these pork chops and I'm cooking them on the stove because I don't feel like grilling. I do plan on grilling pork chops, and I have in mind some kind of salsa that I'll put on there, like some kind of pineapple salsa, mango salsa, something like that, something sweet to go with it. This sauce also has a sweet edge because of the honey as well, and I just think sweet and pork goes really well together. So I'll let the sauce cook for a couple more minutes, and then we're actually going to add the pork chops back in and kind of get those heated up and cooked up to the proper temperature. Yeah, the sauce has thickened, and that was part of the purpose for the Dijon mustard, not just the flavor, but using it as a thickening agent for the glaze. Now, if you have an issue with the glaze, you can always add in cornstarch. But what you want to do is you want to take the cornstarch and make a little slurry with it, add water to it, and then add it to your sauce, and that will help to thicken it as well. So now what I'm doing, I'm just tossing the pork in the sauce. We're gonna let that cook a little longer, and the next time you see me, everything will be plated out. Well, dreamers, we're all done. Take a look at those pork chops and those green beans. I'm so proud of myself. I keep experimenting, and as long as you follow the recipe, it comes out just fine. So what I want you to take away from this video, and I keep saying it because I really mean it, be a good support to your mentally ill family member or friend, someone who's just been diagnosed. And even if they've been diagnosed for years, like me, it's been 18 years. Having support in my life and people who understand that I'm bipolar and that help to get me through my swings, whether that be by leaving me completely alone, which is what my mother typically does, or if you're actively supporting me and making sure that I'm okay and hanging out with me and that kind of thing. However the support comes, we all need it. So if you like this video, give me thumbs up. Remember, there's a share button down here. So it says share with an arrow. Click on that and share this to your social media platform, Facebook probably. And leave me a comment if you have any questions or concerns. And remember, if you have not subscribed to my channel, this is your chance. My face is going to be up here in a circle. So I want you to click on my face, select the gray bell, select all, and that way you'll be notified to all the new content that I place on YouTube, and you'll be subscribed to my channel. Have a great day, dreamers!